has started.
Yeah. Should I chant first?
Yes, Deepti ji.
I will also do the Sandhi correction in chanting. There are only two corrections in this verse. You see the word Viryam, that dot on top.
Yes,
So
Deepti ji.
normally it is Viryam only. That Anuswara is pronounced as Ma, but in certain cases, like this particular case, where it is followed by, say here, Ka,
Yeah.
then the Anuswara takes the nasal of that sound. So Ka, Kha, Ga, Gha, Nga. So I will chant it as Sahaviryang Karavavahai. So
Okay,
the
Deepti ji.
optional chanting is correct also, what we are always doing, which is very popular. Sahaviryam Karavavahai. But I prefer now to stick to the traditional chanting, which is wherever possible. So Sahaviryam Karavavahai. And the second one is Shantihi. The Visarga here, two dots, are called Visarga. The Visarga, when it is followed by Sh, then the Visarga takes the sound of half Sh. So one way of chanting would be Shantihi, Shantihi, Shantihi. And other way which we are going to do is Shanti, Shanti, Shantihi. So both these visargas take the next sound, which is sh. This is just an optional rule, and in this verse, these are the two things that apply. So we will do it accordingly. So you can follow me, Gaurav. Om Sahana Vavatu
Om Sahana Vavatu
Sahanau Bhunaktu
Sahanau Bhunattu
Sahaviryam Karavavahai
Sahaviryan Karvavahe
Tejasvinavadhitamastu
Tejasvinavadhitamastu
Ma Vidvishavahai
Ma Vidvishavahe
Ma Vidvishavahai
Ma Vidvishavahe
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti
Om Shantish Shantish Shantihi
Vasudevendra Yogindram
Vasudevendra Yogindram
Natva Jnanapradam Gurum
Natva Jnanapradam Gurum
Mumukshunam Hitarthaya
Mumukshunam Hitatharya
Hitarthaya
Hitathaya
Hitarthaya Hitarthaya
Hitarthaya
Tattva Bodho Bhidhiyate
Tattva Bodho Vidhiyate
Nityam Shuddham Nirabhasam
Nityam Shuddham Nirabhasam
Nirakaram Niranjanam
Nirakaram Niranjanam
Nityabodham Chidanandam
नित्यबोधं चिदानन्दम्
गुरुं ब्रह्म नमाम्यहम्
गुरुं ब्रह्मा नमाम्यहम्
साधनचतुष्टय सम्पन्ना
साधनचतुष्टय सम्पन्ना
अधिकारिणाम्
अधिकारिणां
मोक्षसाधनभूतम्
मोक्षसाधनभूतं
तत्त्वविवेकप्रकारम्
तत्त्वविवेकप्रकारं
वक्ष्यामः।
वक्ष्यामः।
साधनचतुष्टयम् किम्?
साधनचतुष्टयं किम्?
नित्यानित्यवस्तुविवेकः
नित्यानित्यवस्तुविवेकः
इहामुत्रार्थफलभोगविरागः
इहमुत्रार्थफलभोगविरागः
समाधिषट्कसम्पत्तिः
समाधिषट्कसम्पत्तिः
मुमुक्षुत्वं चेति
मुमुक्षुत्वं चेति
नित्यानित्यवस्तुविवेकः कः?
नित्यानित्यवस्तुविवेकः कः?
नित्यवस्त्वेकं ब्रह्म
नित्यवस्तुवेकं ब्रह्म
तद्व्यतिरिक्तं सर्वमनित्यम्
तद्व्यतिरिक्तं सर्वमनित्यम्
अयमेव नित्यानित्यवस्तुविवेकः।
अयमेव नित्यानित्यवस्तुविवेकः।
विरागः कः?
विरागः कः?
इह स्वर्गभोगेषु इच्छाराहित्यम्
इह स्वर्गभोगेषु इच्छाराहित्यम्
इहामुत्रार्थफलभोगविरागः
इयमुत्रार्थफलभोगविरागः
समाधिसाधनसम्पत्तिः का?
समाधिसाधनसम्पत्तिः का?
शमोदम उपरतिः
शमोदम उपरतिः
तितीक्षा श्रद्धा
तितिक्षा श्रद्धा
समाधानं च इति
समाधानं च इति
शमः कः?
शमः कः?
मनोनिग्रहः
मनोनिग्रहः
दमः कः?
दमः कः?
चक्षुरादिबाह्येन्द्रियनिग्रहः
चक्षुरब्धिबाहोन्द्रियनिग्रहः चक्षुरादि
बाह्येन्द्रिय
बाह्येन्द्रिय
निग्रहः
निग्रहः
चक्षुरादि बाह्येन्द्रिय
चक्षुरादि बाह्येन्द्रिय
निग्रहः
निग्रहः
उपरमः कः?
उपरमः कः?
स्वधर्मानुष्ठानमेव
स्वधर्मानुष्ठानमेव
तितीक्षा का?
तितिक्षा का?
शीतोष्णसुखदुःखादि
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 सहिष्णुत्वम्
सहिष्णुत्वम्
शीतोष्णसुखदुःखादि
शीतोष्णसुखदुःखादि
सहिष्णुत्वम्
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 वेरी गुड। श्रद्धा कीदृशी?
श्रद्धा कीदृशी?
गुरुवेदान्तवाक्यादिषु विश्वासः
गुरुवेदान्तवाक्यादिषु विश्वासः
समाधानं किम्?
समाधानं किम्?
चित्तैकाग्रता
chittaikagrata.
Very good, very good. Thank you. So we will continue from yesterday. We are doing Uparama. Uparama basically means a mental withdrawal. Uparamaha. Here the author has defined as Swadharma Anushtanam Eva. Eva means alone, only. Uparamaha किसे कहते हैं? When will you say that my mind has uparati? Uparati is also used as a state of the mind. Uparamaha is the quality. Uparati is also used as a word. When would you say that I have uparati? When he says you are abiding in, you are following, you are living with, only doing your swadharma, your own duty. Swadharma, now we are understanding as doing your duties as per your stage and your role in life. Another way of defining duty is identifying where all you have received what. Not in the sense of a calculation, but in the sense of a gratitude or a sense of a repayment in the sense of quote unquote. The word is a very incorrect word, but in the sense of offering what you are good at. It may not be exactly the same or to the same place from where you receive, but the attitude inside that I must also give. Whatever I have received from wherever I receive, but I should also return back to, say, society, say somebody else, say wherever. The basic idea of dharma, swadharma, is wherever I am in receipt, I must be conscious of giving back. The same place or wherever else, my attitude should be. Swadharma means I define a duty. What is the duty based on? One of the ways to base your duty is on what are my roles in life. So if I'm a wife, if I'm a husband, if I'm a father, I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a brother, I'm a friend, I'm a citizen, I'm whatever I am in my role. Normally speaking, these are the roles that actually are the areas from where you also receive. So they become obligatory that you have to return back. This is in the present context of life. Wherever I have a role identified, I have an obligation to live on my duties as per that role. Another place that defines my duties is wherever I have received from, I return back. Most often people misunderstand this or have a very limited understanding of this, and they only say I receive from people. In the Vedika view, people are only the last bit from where we receive. Our life is sustained by a lot more forces, as in environment, as in earth, as in water, as in air, as in a comfortable existence that I may have today, has many, many layers of people's contributions, nature's contributions, both together, which makes me a taker at a point of time. So even if I'm resting at home, I have a comfortable bed on which I sleep. That bed has also been made by someone. Now we don't go so intricately. Idea is every person is a receiver. When we recognize this fact that I am a greater receiver than I may be a giver, the least I can do is whatever are my obligatory duties, let me be alert and conscious of not overlooking them or avoiding them. I'm going to repeat this. When we settle in our understanding that we are all takers in life, and taker doesn't mean I'm a taker only from people. I am a taker. If I'm a alive person today and I'm an adult today, there has been countless contributions to why I am alive today. A mere recognition of this fact, known, unknown, and mostly unknown, contributions may have been there for me to be alive today. I recognize that I am a receiver, I am a taker, and therefore the least I can do is whatever is in my capacity, in terms of my talents, qualities, in terms of my aptitudes, in terms of my strengths, in terms of what I can contribute back, where I am strong at. This idea is what is also the base of Karam Yoga, which Gita will elaborate at another point. The basic idea here is, why is it connected? Why is this abiding in Swadharma connected to Uparama? Why is it that when I act on my duties, I will develop Uparati? I will have a certain withdrawal in myself. I will have a certain quietude in my mind. I will have a certain, I will use the word detachment in a positive sense. A detachment means I don't have clingingness in my mind. Why will I not have those? I did not work at them separately. The reason why I will find myself that I just don't cling to anything or any happening in life is because I'm focused on, I'm attentive to, I'm directed to, doing what I'm supposed to do. So when I'm concentrated only on abiding, focused on abiding my life, myself in the present to do what is to be done, I find that indirectly I have a very mature mind. I constantly use the word mature. I have defined it in the past in the sense in which I use it. Cultivated, as I said yesterday. I have a cultivated mind. Why is this important? Because to understand this, you have to take the word Swadharma in the context in which it was said in the Vedic time, when the society was Vedic. Today, our society is modern, scientific oriented, yes, materialistically oriented, yes, and in the sense of Vedika Purusharthas, Artha Kama oriented. For those of you who do not know, and I don't remember if I have taken Purusharthas in this class, in Vedas there are 4 Purusharthas: Artha, Kama, Dharma, and Moksha. Moksha. Purushartha means your capacity to do a choice-based action. Purusha Artha, what you will set as a goal, what you will be inclined to pursue, where you put your effort towards. Artha means material world, material objects, anything in the form of gross objects, grossified world. Kama means enjoyments. They could be sensory, they could be mental as in lingering over some pleasurable incident of like, oh, I went on my 50th birthday or my 25th birthday or my 16th birthday or my 12th birthday. आजकल तो बहुत सारे occasions होते हैं. Every day is an occasion. मतलब every excuse is an excuse. When my child turned one, when my child learned to take the first step, then when it became etc etc. So when I turned 10, when I turned 11, when I turned 16, when I turned 18, when I turned 21, when I turned 25. There are many reasons. And when I turn 30, I'm turning the chapter. So then when I turn 40, I'm turning the decade. Then I turn 50. And then, I have to have a big celebration. So when I got married, I had a big celebration, etc., etc., etc. Now, I may revel in those. Why did I have such big celebrations? My inclination is to enjoy. Just enjoy sensory pleasures. For our ideas are very simplified. Our concept in Vedanta, we are very simplified. Our idea of pleasure is sensory pleasure. जहां मुझे आनंद आ रहा है, इंद्रियों का सुख हो रहा है, इंद्रियों का भोग हो रहा है, उसी को हम आनंद कह रहे हैं. Now I may have had a beautiful cruise when I was 25, and even when I'm above 50, I'm still reveling in those days, 25 years old. Experience that I had with that set of friends, that Kama. Calm is a pursuit. I engage in more and more activities which keep me entangled in my sense pleasures. So Artha and Kama are normally quite interrelated. I earn money, I want objects so that I can enjoy them. This is called Bhoga, Bhoga Vritti, settling down with just enjoyments. The third Purushartha was Dharma. That means Artha and Kama are not my primary objectives of life. Dharma is my primary objective of life. Dharma means a sense of righteousness, a sense of duty. Dharma has many meanings. Two basics you can see here. One is a sense of righteousness based on my sense of duties. What are my duties? Based on that, I have a sense of value, a sense of righteousness. What is right and what is wrong for me to do, not for the world. Based on my own dharmas, I decide what is right for me and wrong for me. If I have a dharmic view of life, means I am choosing my outlook of life to be based on righteousness that I will conduct from my side. It is irrespective of what people are doing to me. I am choosing that I will base my life on righteousness. And there are reasons why I will choose. I have my reasons for it. At that point, I realize that my own duties are only defined by me. Based on what, as I just finished saying, by my understanding, some understanding I have, and I see it as my duty. Dharma was a very universal value at the Vedic time. It was something that was pursued in the minimum level by a human being. Artha and Kama were actually discouraged in a Vedic society. It was given only that much importance as was necessary for the sustenance of life. Artha was only encouraged that much that can give you a sustainable, comfortable life. You were discouraged to grow those desires which would mean more comfort, more wealth, more power, more status, more. और चाहिए. Utna paisa, no, let me earn more. Then I will have this. Then now my old car, now I need more. So, you are in a chase. I'm not going to elaborate this, but I'm sure you can understand it. That artha and kama was discouraged in a Vaidika society. Today, our society is oriented to encouraging artha and kama. So what is happening is that less and less people are inspired or make dharma their goal of life. When you make dharma your goal of life, it is going to definitely be sacrificing artha and kama. You can only gain one thing. If you gain artha and kama, you will sacrifice dharma. If you are pursuing dharma, there will be some sacrifice of artha and kama. Fourth purushartha was the moksha purushartha. The society was kept inspired or kept alive with the thoughts that the goal of a human life is to attain its moksha. हर जीव का, human being का एक ही गोल था जीवन में, and that was moksha. Moksha prapti they would say, but by the time you come to Vedanta you realize it's not a prapti, but moksha being a goal to start off, it is something you start moving towards. The idea of the four purusharthas is when there is moksha, at the point of moksha, the other three are fulfilled. The other three automatically keep gratifying themselves. There will be some sacrifice, but it is never that you have complete sacrifice of it. At the level of moksha, dharma, kama and artha, or dharma, artha and kama, some people change the krama, the order, doesn't matter. At the level of moksha, the other three are fairly fulfilled by nature, by your own efforts for this. They come as rewards, and you are happy to sustain within that. But when you are coming to dharma, moksha has got sacrificed, and at the level of dharma, there will be some artha and kama which will come to you as a fruit, byproduct. But it will not be how you chase it exclusively. At the level of kama and artha, as I said, these two kind of go together. At that time, the society was divided not as we see division today, but for the sake of simplification, it was delegated, is the right word. The society was delegated according to what one's dharmas were, and dharma there was further understood as what one's karmas are. What is a duty? So when you remove the intellectual aspect of it or the understanding aspect of it, what is a duty? Duty is basically what will you do? उसी को duty कहते हैं ना. मुझे क्या करना है वही duty है. So duty is not a very overwhelming word. What should I do is what is my duty. That what should I do, another word for us in our language is karma. मेरे कर्म क्या है? What are my karmas that I need to do? What are my karmas that I should be doing? What are the karmas that are mine to do? The minute you place the words like that, you'll have some clarity. What are the karmas that are mine to do? मेरे हैं. That means they are exclusive to me. ये कौन से कर्म हैं that are mine to do? The minute I say what are my karmas that are mine to do, you will start narrowing your vision. And all the temptations that you have for other purusharthas like artha and kama, those temptations get withdrawn. As I said, in today's world, everybody must have a certain material goal in life. When you join organizations, if you are not a achieving person. What is it? Ambitious person, a go-getter. If you're not a go-getter, you're not looked upon as a valuable person. If you're not an ambitious person, you're not looked upon as a valuable person. If you've not set your goals, and by the time I'm 25 and by the time I'm 30, you're not a productive person. The company doesn't see you as a very valuable, productive person if you don't have that force in you. Later on when we see the gunas, if you don't have that rajas in you, if you don't have that achieving fire in you, you must have that achievement ka fire in you. I must burn with this fire in me that must say I need to achieve my goals, and my goals, who has said, my company has set goals for me. Everybody has to give this much outcome. Even in hospitals today, doctors have goals, especially private hospitals. In fact, private hospitals have goals. The doctors have to have a goal of giving so much back to the hospital, etc. Now, if I don't have those goals, I don't find myself an active person. It's a very ironical thing. But if you look at it from your duty angle, the two things are very different. If you look at it from a duty angle, you actually find yourself neutrally productive. This is very difficult to convey to a person. You need a lot of reframing and retuning. If I am a duty-based person, I am defining my duty. That means if I'm working for an organization, instead of getting that fire in me and that desire in me till it burns my stomach inside and my acid has come up and burnt my lining inside, and I'm an anxious person and I'm a worryful person and I'm like a result-oriented person because I have to get the goals fixed. Instead of that, if I just say I have my duty towards the company I work, because I have chosen the company, I have chosen to work. So if I have a duty to work, how will you perform your work? Will you be lesser productive? Will you be less productive? The only thing that can prevent you is that thought which will say, why am I doing so much and why is the other person not doing enough? Why am I only always doing? That looking at someone else's work or looking at someone else's karmas and thinking they should also be done by you or not done by you, equating them, looking at another person's karmas is called paradharma. So swadharma has an opposite and it's paradharma. What happens, why has this author made it an Uparama? That when I am focusing on swadharma, I am automatically removed from attractions to paradharma. I'm automatically removed from following paradharma. And paradharma is a temptation, is always the easy way out. कम करके ज़्यादा मिले, अगर कोई और कुछ कम करके, there is another way of doing कम करके ज़्यादा, which is an intelligent living, which we are not talking about. Paradharma is supposing somebody cheated someone or bribed someone and got their work done, and they today are in a better place than you are, and you were the one who was slogging it and working with your duties and blah 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 blah. Naturally, mind में विचार thought आ सकता है, अरे यार कुछ भी नहीं करता, कितना सब कुछ ले गया. That person is so much well off. I wish I had also done that. Now, the minute you say, I wish I had done that, I wish I also follow these shortcuts or whatever. I'm bad at those examples, but I'm sure you understand the idea, the concept, the message. If you get tempted by them, paradharma, someone else's duties, what they are doing, someone else's karmas, then that means you don't have uparama. Your mind has gone out to look at someone else. The comparison has come. Wo aise, wo, and that's a very natural vritti. Wherever there'll be two people, there'll be comparisons. So the minute you sit in comparison, automatically you will be less tuned to yourself. So withdrawing that attention on other people, what others do, what others are gaining, what others are, you can compare to learn. I'm not talking about that. But comparing only for the sake of you finding a alternative course of avoiding doing what you want to do, what you've chosen to do. So Uparama, the Vishesha dharmas that you have in life, make you develop the bhav in your, the state of your mind, which is fairly centered and anchored. एक अंदर ही ठहराव आता है मन का. I can only use words to convey that because there's no way of conveying that maturity of the mind. You can only know it when you live it. And then Vedanta becomes a verifying knowledge to you. When I follow the principles and I see the change and I know then later Vedanta says this, that's the time I realize that that's the principle that worked. I hope this is clear. I often say this, day one of my learning, teaching, has been Vedanta is more of a verifying knowledge. It directs me, but when I start living it, then I start seeing what it says and it verifies to me as something here already. I already see it as correct. So Uparama is that state of mind where mind can stay within its own self. Very interesting. This is very strange example. We'll say kaisa example hai, but it's coming to my mind, so I'm going to say it. With all the world now more focused from their homes, someone I know who is a good baker, bakes, and has baked a cake which has a hard shell outside of a heart, a very beautiful shaped heart. The cake is under it. So when you see, you don't see the cake, you see a very hard, it could be red, it could be purple, it was yellow, and a very beautiful shaped in the sense it's not plain, but it's got these diagonals over it. It's a nice shape. But to have it means instead of cutting the cake, you break the cake, you break the heart. So the idea is you break the heart to cut the cake. Now, the minute you break the heart, something got revealed. Hidden under it was the cake. Now, breaking that heart means, I'm equating it to this example now, our mind is capsuled. When it is by itself, what is a spiritual value when my mind can stay with itself peacefully, by itself? Bhagavad Gita calls it Atma Ratihi, Atma Santushtihi, Atma Triptihi. It is satisfied by itself, it is content by itself, and it is peaceful by itself. But this mind is, as we have already done in details now, is actually connected to our senses. तो एवरेजली हम सबका शुरुआत में हाल ये है कि हमारी मन इंद्रियों के साथ निकल जाता है, बह जाता है. 5 इंद्रियास बह गया. That is what we said in the Rath example, that chaos that happens. जब इंद्रियों के साथ बह गया, I don't find my mind peaceful because now it's disturbed. It's perceiving sounds and noises and I need to figure it out and I need to see what I want, what I don't want. बड़ी activity होनी शुरू हो जाती है और ये सब तब है when I'm not conscious of what's happening. हम लोग सब अपने आप को conscious being कहते हैं, but very few of us are really conscious beings. We are all mechanical beings. As we grow older and older, we just become mechanical in our habits and attitudes and in our thinking. And that mechanicalness with which we live life is actually come to that stage because our mind is no longer holding its own roots. Nikal gaya. Now, what is spiritual growth? Yesterday I was saying I will only mostly talk about it because that's what Vedanta really is meant for. Your spiritual value would be how to get this mind to get detached from all these, hooks outside. जो उसने बना ली हैं. इंद्रियों के द्वारा it has hooks. This point will get explained further when we do the Viveka Chudamani example, the verse, to explain Uparama. But remember this much in this context. Those areas of dependencies that my mind has now created, if I don't get this, I don't have that. I'll take a very simple example. For many years, someone who had kept a discipline in the life of saying one bucket bath. Just like that. And then a stage came, the value seemed not so important or whatever. So it became, okay, once in a while, okay, fine, I deserve it. 2 buckets. Dhire dhire, the person realized that now it's 3 buckets. Now what happened? It's the same person. For years, you took 1 bucket bath as a discipline. The person took 1 bucket bath as a discipline. One odd thought, it's okay, I've done so much, I think I'm tired today, my muscles are aching, or something like that, I must relax today, 10 minutes extra, something, some crazy, which you don't think at that time is going to result itself in a weakness at some point. At that time, ऐसा लगता है आज ही के लिए कर रहे हैं ना, कल तो tomorrow again 1 bucket bath. It happened a little time, slowly, 2 bucket bath became a habit. It's okay, how does it matter? There's so much. When you chose, the person said, when I chose the 1 bucket bath, my idea was I am receiver of, through this Vedantic knowledge, understood water is scarce now. I should take the responsibility of not wasting it. So, but then after some time, the person said, I've done this for so long, I've saved so many buckets of water. One odd if I indulge in, how does it matter? People take bathtubs. I have saved so much water. One time, it's okay. And then slowly it became 2 buckets. Now, still the person is justifying, saying, I've saved so many buckets already. 2 buckets, okay, if I've done it for a few days, a few weeks, or few days in a month, it's okay. People should be now focusing. See what has happened to the mind. It started by saying, I'm holding the value of saving water. Slowly what started happening? The mind started coming out. I want this point to be registered. The mind started, I will say, leaking out of that value. Harmless. At this point, it's harmless. But slowly what happened? That 1 bucket norm became 2 bucket norm. And 2 bucket norm slowly became 3 bucket norm. The way the mind comes out, this is one example. Shastra says, human being का हालत इतना खराब है इसलिए, सबका averagely, और किसी भी युग में, it's not कि अब human being का हालत ही इसलिए खराब है because there are 5 outlets. हर इंद्रिय से मन बाहर निकल जाता है. Now, what are all these values, the inner wealth that we are studying or trying to understand and trying to implement to our best capacity? What are these? These are those ways in which you are bringing the mind back to its own self. Because you will realize later on that a mind which is held within itself, by itself, is the only qualified mind for moksha purusharth, is the only qualified mind where you will gain the insight of who you are. That the minute you would have heard you are Atma, your Brahman, whichever the later portions of Vedanta are going to tell you, and that you're not the body, and that every bit of question falls into place. Everything about life falls into place. Why? Because your mind is in place. If your mind is not in place, then nothing is in place. So people have taken programs and programs and programs and programs, and I can build programs on this, just this topic. Self-development programs, productivity programs. So much can be done around this. But the main point is what? You need this mind. Call it introvert. You need the direction of the mind staying by itself. That quality alone is what in these Shataka Sampatti is saying is Uparama. So when it is not going out, means you are not doing your actions based on what someone else is doing, or what someone else is saying, or what someone else thinks I should be doing, or etc. etc. Swadharma Anushthan makes the mind Uparama, gives the mind the Uparati, reveling in its own self. अपने आप के अंदर रति, Uparati, reveling by itself. At that time, just to complete the thought, at that time, I'm talking of at that time the Vedic system, so that we see the contrast and we are able, it's not out of context today. It is still very much in context, but you get the whole vision clear, because karma-based dharmas, no two people can have the same. Karam-based, agar duty hai, agar idea of duty is karam-based, then no two people can have the same set of duties. And therefore, even if you have similar natures, similar duties, similar, today you can call them professions, you can call them careers, whatever words. At that time in the Vedic system, Swadharma defined your karma, what you should be doing, and based on that were the 4 varnas. What are the varnas? Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. But these were not jati. I'm taking a little detour to make this point clear, because it's connected to Swadharma. Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra is not jati in Vedic system. It became jati because of misunderstanding and misinterpretation and mislabeling, and it was meant purposely to mislead the society. Those who were benefiting from this amazing vision of the Vedas, and they were growing materially, spiritually, the society was flourishing. At that time, when Artha Kama were not their main primary purpose, Moksha was the primary purpose. People abided in it with dharma. There was more than enough prosperity in the land where Vedic values sustained themselves. And that point, karma was divided based upon how you were inclined to do what you are inclined to do. And those karmas were, if you were a Brahmin, your karma was to have first a lot of individual tapas. A Brahmin was not allowed to indulge in most of the sensory pleasures. He was allowed sensory pleasures, but there was a lot of restriction. And because he did so much tapas, so it just became natural for the other people to respect Brahmins. Why? Because they were already doing a lot of self-controls and self. They were guiding the society to what was right because their karma was study and teach. That's what their profession was. It was a teaching the society the values, teaching the society the higher, teaching the society what is the lower, so that the society can prevent themselves from slipping into it. And this the Brahmins did with a lot of personal penance, because there was a lot of penance. We will not go into it, it's no longer anywhere relevant. But the idea is, where did the dharma come from? If you were a Kshatriya, your dharma could not have been what a Brahmin's dharma was. You were supposed to be one who was to protect the weak, protect people. So Kshatriya's job was to not necessarily learn the shastras or learn the knowledge, gain so much knowledge, become a scholar. No, Kshatriya's job was gain the skills that is going to make him equipped when the need comes. He should be able to abide in the duty of protecting the weak. You hear of all our soldiers on the borders, etc. Not every soldier there is a Kshatriya, but those who are Kshatriyas have fearlessness in them as a quality, etc. Vaishyas were those people who were to sustain the economy of the society. A Brahmin's job was not to create wealth in the society, but Vaishya's job was to create wealth in the society and then distribute it to the other classes. All the other classes were dependent on Vaishya's wealth. His duty was only to create the wealth and to distribute the wealth. His duty was not to hoard the wealth. His duty was not to protect the country. His duty was not to protect the weak. His duty was not to go educate someone else. His duty he was to focus on one thing. He was to generate economy. And the last one was the Shudra. The Shudra meant, now it has terrible connotation and certainly not acceptable the way it has become. And it's good that the society fights it, because Shudras meant only those who were not going to become leaders at some point of time, because all the other three you will find themselves leading the society. But majority people are those who can only follow. They're not clear, they don't know, so they will follow instructions, but they cannot make something original. In that sense, they'll follow. If you give them the instructions, they'll do it very well. So these are the people who were given the duty of supporting the other three classes. Whatever help they need wherever, they were supposed to help them with that. This is Swadharma. Paradharma meant, in Gita there is a verse, Paradharma bhayavaha. You get fear inside if you follow Paradharma. There is psychological fear inside. When you abide or do someone else's duty, just because it may look nice. Like the example I will give this, I think there's a bhajan there. I'm not very sure where I'm able to remember what the words are. Two flowers were comparing each other. I think it's a poem. Two flowers are comparing each other, and it's a Hindi poet, very famous poet. And one flower says, I am always put on the idols. I'm put on idols, so I'm very superior. And the other one says, I am always, okay, let me redo this. Okay, let me forget it. I can't remember the whole thing. So let me do another example. The idea is, it's a very beautifully conveying idea, which says how one is comparing himself with the other. The I can't remember what the flower compares itself with. And he says how lucky you are that you are whatever. And the other person says how lucky you are that you get placed on the idols. So each compares the other, doesn't find himself in a lucky place, sees the other as luckier, and as a result of which thinks it is less. Firstly, makes the mistake of doesn't see himself as lucky. Secondly, makes the mistake of calling someone else luckier. Thirdly, automatically what he starts concluding is that I am less lucky. I'm less lucky. That lessness he starts imposing on himself. This looking at another person, doing what someone else is doing and getting attracted to it, that paradharma, Shastra says, if you follow paradharma, you will have fear and you will also reduce your caliber. You'll reduce your spiritual growth. Your mind will always be volatile. You will never feel the inner Shanti because you do duty that falls in someone else's portfolio. It's not your duty. So where do you draw the line? It's a thin, thick, whatever, doesn't matter. It's a line. It's very thick if you see it clearly. Those who see clearly, there are no thin lines for them. उनको बहुत साफ है ये मेरा काम करने वाला है या नहीं है, it's my duty or not. Those who don't see, they think it's a very thin line. Duty, doing what you're supposed to be doing and not avoiding it first, and not getting tempted to do someone else's duty second. When this gets taken care of, your mind will automatically have Uparama. This is the main idea why he gives the definition Swadharma Anusthana. Anusthana means abiding in it. अपने अपने कर्मों में, whatever your karmas as per your roles are, which are your duties now to do, till you reach this stage where your mind has got qualified for hearing in the manner which reveals the knowledge, Advaitam. Till then, following what you're supposed to be doing is Uparama. And then comes another meaning. That meaning needs also a little extra explanation, so I'll take it next class, which is the Viveka Chudamani meaning. And I am going to introduce this now so that we complete it, hopefully, next class. According to Viveka Chudamani, as I'm constantly pointing out this, and in case you have missed the reason why I'm doing it, the reason why I'm doing this too is because both of them are attributed to Shankaracharya. And both of them have given slightly different implications of these definitions. They've given different definitions. This in itself is a very big learning, that both books give slightly different definitions, but both of them means all of Vedanta Shastra says sadhana chatushtayam is a necessity. There is no debate on it. There is no conflict on it. Sadhana chatushtayam is a necessity. Maturity of your mind is needed. But how is it needed? There is no clarifications much in the Shastra, except Karmakand, Jnanakand. Karmakand is all upasanas and karmas, physical karmas and upasanas. Jnanakand is free from all karmas and upasanas. Big difference between the two. But only through Karmakand and Upasana do you develop certain maturities. Mind transforms itself, hopefully should be transforming if done properly, which is Nishkama Karma. If you do it like that, then your mind matures itself. And these definitions differ only because the standpoint of the two acharyas seems to be a little different, is how one begins to understand. Tattva Bodha takes it at the level of introducing, and Viveka Chudamani is a further prakarnam which takes everything in more details, saying that your goal is, say, moksha or higher development of your own self, either way. Now, Viveka Chudamani over here says, when your mind has stopped depending upon external objects, when your mind is not resting upon external objects, then it is said to be Uparama. Bahya analambanam vrittehe esha uparatihi uttama. That's the best state of uparati. So Swadharma Anushtan, the previous definition, is where you start from. But this author is indicating what is the best state. And the best state is where your mind is not dependent on, means the thoughts are not resting on external objects, external things. This I will take a little more in details next time, because this is a very beautiful idea which opens up a lot of inner practices, Vedic practices, religious, call them whatever. But here it will open up. So what we have done today, let me summarize this a little bit. What we have done today is Uparama. Uparama's simple meaning is mind withdrawal. But mind withdrawal, many times people think of it as withdrawal from duties, not interested. हम आराम से बैठे हैं, हम तो कुछ नहीं करेंगे, because I am sitting in a state of withdrawal. My mind, I have lost interest. Shastra is very clear about it. That's not called mind withdrawal. Mind withdrawal is an independent state. It is gaining independence. It's gaining freedom. It is gaining freedom from external dependencies, for which one way is to identify your duties and stick to them. Don't get tempted to follow someone else's course of action. Don't get tempted to follow other people, or don't let other people dictate to you what should be your duty. You identify your duty and stick to them. That way, your mind indirectly will achieve the state of uparati, will just get withdrawn. Important to identify this was in terms of actions, karmas. What are my karmas to be done? And karmas to be done is based on what all I am receiving in life from, what all roles I have in life. Based on that, samanya karmas, vishesha karma. Samanya karma would mean general values. Vishesha would mean specific roles, specific values. And in those days, these karmas, swadharma, had a very specific meaning. And that specific meaning is worth knowing. That specific meaning was based on one's own inclined karmas. Varnas were divided, and therefore everybody stuck to doing what it was easy to identify your set of duties. Now it's a little more complex. Like when we were growing, we were saying, or let's say when our parents were growing, just around the Indian independence time, most of the people didn't have many career choices. They just followed their family professions, family. If the father of the family was a trader, the child took trading. You see that even today, if the father was a politician, the child is a politician, or if the father was in Bollywood, the child is in Bollywood. Possible there, because it was much easier. The society was not focusing on so much of an individual development of characteristics, individual growth of a person. It was more focused on individual personality. It was more growth oriented of the person in terms of what the person really is. So it fell into place. But by the time we came, we had few options in our careers. So it was a little more complex than what they had. So most of the women didn't have a choice at all. In our generation, we had some choices, but they were restricted to doctors and engineers, and I think something like that, 3, 4 more. That's it. The next generation now, my God, it's Pandora's box. Every person has a choice to choose what they want to do, irrespective are they inclined to do it or not. So Swadharma is very necessary if you want to choose a right field of activity for yourself. Because that's where you will sustain your interest, and that is where you will be absolutely inclined to withdraw your mind to doing what you're supposed to do. So based on all this, too many thoughts, of course, I know once again today. I tried not to make so many thoughts through and keep it to 3 or 4, but since you were all receiving, I just kept on giving. It just came out. So, but Uparati we are going to do again based on the word alambanam and analambanam. This, how the thought is resting, is a beautiful principle in itself that Shastra uses for one's growth. So with this, I'll stop the class today and we will meet again. I'll do the Shanti Mantra today. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukha bhag bhavet.